Hey, what's going on YouTube? James at JKremmerFitness Protein Review Guy. It's been a hot minute since I've done a full protein review, and today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Alpha Lion Superhuman, because Alpha Lion is not just selling premium whey isolate, it is selling a premium experience. This tub looks polished. The label gives more detail than a lot of flashy competitors. The Amino profile is printed right on the container. It mixes well, and the direct buy perks are actually strong. On paper, that creates the look of a high-end formula. Here's the problem. The reason this turns into a joke with receipts attached is that the proof stack does not fully match the price stack. The brand did not provide a named lab, public COA, batch-specific heavy metals results, or toxicology report when asked. Even while using language like 100% transparency right here and no amino spiking. So the real answer is this. Alpha Lion protein is premium priced because it's marketed like a premium performance formula, but behaves more like a mid-tier product wearing expensive cologne. Alpha Lion's label explains just enough to look impressive, but not enough to close the case. It tells you the protein source is Provon 292 SFL, which is a Glanbia protein powder, which is instantaneized whey protein isolate 90%, gives you 25 grams of protein, 2.74 grams of leucine, and 5.74 grams of total BCAAs. That is more disclosure than a lot of overpriced tubs pretending a shiny label is transparency. What it does not explain is where the proof lives once the marketing stops talking. The label does not explain who verified the amino spiking claim, which lab supposedly handled the third-party testing, where the public COA is, where the toxicology report is, where the whey actually came from at the dairy level, what is inside the layered natural and artificial flavor system, how a premium transparency pitch ends with private paperwork. Now, Alpha Lion gave me enough label details to understand the claims. It did not give me enough documentation to verify the claim after I reached out by email. Distinction matters. The tub gives buyers more amino-related disclosure than a lot of flashy premium proteins. It lists the whey source, protein amounts, leucine, total BCAAs, etc. On paper, Alpha Lion gives itself a stronger case than brands that just throw high quality into air like confetti. But when I contacted the brand directdirectly, this is where the verification story stalled. All right, let's go ahead and talk about Superhuman and the Prop 65 warning. When I did the full research on it, it did not show a Prop 65 warning on label or sales page when I reviewed it. And yes, that is better than seeing one. Nobody wants their post-workout shake arriving with courtroom energy, but it still does not prove the heavy metal profile is clean. This is where buyers need to slow down. Prop 65 is built around exposure threshold, not halo of purity. So no warning is a positive sign, but it is not the same thing as a clean toxicology report. And that distinction matters here because I reached out to Alpha Lion, as you already know. They don't want to share anything regarding to toxicology or purity. Now, to be fair, the protein does use Glanbia-linked whey proteins ingredient, Provon. I reference the consumer reports because Optimum Nutrition Gold Standard also uses Glanbia whey, which tested for very low heavy metals when I researched it, but that does not clear Alpha Lion protein. All right, let's get into it. The amino risks. Now, if you're looking for a classic amino spiking disaster, Alpha Lion does not really read like that. This is not some mystery tub held together by vibes, nitrogen tricks, and a graphic designer with a caffeine problem. Alpha Lion actually gives buyers more amino-related detail than a lot of premium proteins do. The label names the whey source, lists 25 grams of protein, 2.7 grams of leucine, 5.74 grams of BCAAs. On paper, that makes it look more credible than most flashy tubs pretending transparency is a personality trait. It also matters that the natural and artificial flavors are listed near the bottom of the ingredient panel, unlike its sister container, Optimum Nutrition. Not high enough to immediately make the formula look like it's being padded by flavor architecture and label fog. That does not make the formula fully transparent. It does keep this from reading like an obvious old school amino spiking setup. The problem is that Alpha Lion does not finish the job. The tub explicitly shares no amino spiking, but they would not provide a lab backing up the no amino spiking claim. So this thing lands exactly where it's scored in the review, middle ground risk. All right, let's go ahead and go into comparison part of this full breakdown. For this review, I'm keeping the comparison lane tight as always, because if you haven't figured it out yet, I've been doing individual matchups on different videos. So on this one, let's go ahead and pit Alphaline versus Transparent Labs. One premium protein against another, same neighborhood on price, very different energy once the paperwork enters the room. Now, side by side, this is pretty tight nutrition matchup. Alphaline Hulk milk gives you 25 grams of protein, 2.74 grams of leucine, 5.74 grams of total BCAAs at 83% protein density. Transparent Labs French Vanilla comes in 28 grams of protein, 2.8 grams of leucine, 5.9 grams of BCAAs, 82% density. So Alphaline holds up well on paper, but Transparent Labs gives buyers a little bit more total protein and slightly more amino support by serving. The bigger split is not the formula math, it's the trust math. Alphaline provides more label disclosure than most flashy tubs, but Transparent Labs offers stronger external verification through informed choice, informed protein, plus batch match COAs, which is awesome. Now looking at price, Transparent Labs $2 versus Alphaline's $2.14. Quick takeaway, and it's simple. Alphaline competes well on label disclosure, while Transparent Labs looks stronger on formulation support, verification, and, well, value. All right, let's go ahead and go into the world of Amazon reviews. And this one actually is pretty consistent once you cut through the usual supplement review mood swings. Most buyers seem to agree on two things. First, Alphaline mixes well. That shows up on both sides of the aisle, matches my own review. Secondly, the flavor experience, well, divisive, but not in a random way. Even among positive reviews, there are hints that the taste can be a little chemical-ish. And on the negative side, that complaint gets louder, well, with this guy. That pattern matters because it mirrors the product very well. The shake performs as a solid whey isolate in the bottle, but the smell and taste odor is like walking through a August post-football locker room. Now, Alphaline tastes amazing on some flavors, and while this one tastes terrible. So here's a clean verdict. Alphaline Superhuman protein is not junk protein posing as premium. It's a polished whey isolate with enough label detail to look credible enough, with enough mixability to be enjoyable, and that enough amino disclosure to avoid the usual clown show red flags. That's good news. The problem is that this tub keeps asking for premium trust while showing mid-tier paperwork. Alphaline says the product is third-party tested for purity. You already know the routine. But when I reached out, crickets. So for a protein using phrases like no amino spiking and 100% transparency, it is not a tiny gap. That is the whole case file doing a disappearing act. And this is why this product lands where it does. Mixes well, looks better on paper than many high-end competitors. It has a decent muscle building profile if the label is accurate, but the sourcing is still unclear. The flavor system is more engineered than premium image suggests, and the proof doesn't fully justify the price. So, is this thing Alphaline protein good? Yes, but let's go ahead and put a little big asterisk to the side of the tub. If you care more about mixability, label detail, and direct buy perks like the 365-day guarantee, you may still talk yourself into it. If you care about stronger documentation, clear sourcing, and better proof for money, this is not where I'd put my cash in. That is why Alphaline Superhuman protein finishes 28 out of 50, 56%. Tough recommendation. Sex Panther. Premium, performs pretty well, still smells like the paperwork never arrived. Now let's go ahead and continue this roof for those people who want to know how this thing mixes and tastes. And, well, before we get into those, how many scoops will it take to stimulate muscle growth? If the label is accurate, 1 scoop should be enough to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. As you already know, Alphaline has 2.7 grams of leucine, and then what? As I've been saying this whole entire time, 25 grams of protein. And that's actually what you need post-workout to pull its weight instead of just cosplaying as recovery. So on paper, this protein powder should be pretty solid to get the job done. Of course, you already know where the problems lie. It's in the claims being made on the container. Let's go ahead and get to the part where everyone's trying to figure out the assembly of alpha-line. So, well, okay, man, anabolic cereal. I like Fruity Pebbles, and that's the reason why we're doing anabolic cereal. You can waft it in.
It's quite pungent.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, it's a formidable scent. It stings the nostrils.
But the chemical smell is redonk. So let's go ahead and get one heaping chemical anabolic boy going in there. Lock her up, shake. So in previous protein powder reviews, I don't like having little itty bits floating at the bottom. What alpha-line has done, I think the ratios are just perfect enough where it's not a hindrance to go ahead and fish out the little crumblies at the bottom, but it's probably the best ratio of crumblies to protein. So as you already know, we're gonna go ahead and do anabolic cereal. Cheers. Well, wait a minute. We didn't even do the mixability test. So here we go. This thing is looking pretty solid. Clump there. And then of course, looking on the shaker, bingo. Okay, now let's go ahead and go into the taste test. Cheers. I'm gonna be honest. If there's anybody that can finish one whole container of anabolic cereal, please comment down below because I am not gonna finish this. Like, the taste is so pungent. First thing that you taste is the cereal. And then all of a sudden you get this really chemical metallic taste. And it is just like, I don't know how to describe it. I think this has to be probably the worst tasting protein that I have ever done to date. This one right here, if I'm 100% serious, if there's anybody that's been able to finish one whole container of anabolic cereal, please comment below because I don't want to drink this at all. This is horrible. The other flavors, when doing the research for this review, other people spoke highly of the other flavors, but there is less of a metallic or artificial taste. You know, stevia is, for me, bad. But this, I can't drink this at all. This is pass. So I think Michael Scott said it best on season 4 of The Office with the after dinner work party.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
That is sort of an oaky afterbirth.
Shared the full independent non-biased review listed downstairs. I should have the brand comparisons to this thing out hopefully next week. So as always, thanks for making it into another protein review. Make it a great day. Blah.